Good day! We are Group 5 and we are about to present to you the Copenhagen Conference 2009. The Copenhagen Conference culminated 2 years of intense negotiations, launched with the Bali Action Plan, known formally as the 15th session of the Conference of the Parties to the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, or COP15, and 5th session of the Meeting of the Parties to the Kyoto Protocol, or CMP5. The gathering drew a level of political attention well beyond that of any previous meeting. The conference was held in Copenhagen, Denmark between December 7 and December 18. By its closing days, the summit had drawn well over 100 heads of state and government. The following are the core outcomes of the conference, which is the Copenhagen Accord. What is Copenhagen Accord? An accord is a political agreement of a noble form struck by world leaders at the 2009 UN Climate Change Conference in Copenhagen. It calls on participating countries to pledge specific actions they will undertake to mitigate greenhouse gas emissions. The Copenhagen was drafted by US, South Africa, China, India, and Brazil. Climate change is one of the greatest challenges of the present day. For a long-term goal, the agreement recognizes the scientific view that the increase in global temperature should be below 2 degrees Celsius. It also calls for a review of the accord by 2015, including a consideration of strengthening the long-term goal in relation to the temperature rises of 1.5 degrees Celsius. Adaptation. Developed countries shall provide adequate and predictable and sustainable finance, technology, and capacity building to support the implementation of adaptation actions in developing countries. Finance. Scaled up, new and additional, predictable, and adequate funding is to be provided to developing countries to support mitigation efforts, adaptation, and capacity building for the period 2010 to 2012. Developed countries have a collective commitment to provide new and additional resources approaching $30 billion. Developed countries also commit to a goal of jointly mobilizing $100 billion a year by 2020 in the context of meaningful mitigation actions and transparency on implementation. The accord calls for a new Copenhagen Green Climate Fund as one channel for delivering finance and a high-level panel to study the contribution of the potential sources of revenue towards the long-term funding goal. Forestry. The accord declares the immediate establishment of mechanism to enable the mobilization of financial resources from developed countries to support efforts to reduce emissions from deforestation and forest degradation and to enhance forest sinks. Technology. The agreement establishes a new technology mechanism to accelerate technology development and transfer for both adaptation and mitigation. Under the accord, Annex 1 or developed countries commit to implement economy-wide emissions targets for 2020. And non-Annex 1, the developing countries will implement mitigation actions. The least developed and small island countries may undertake actions voluntarily and on the basis of support. The developed countries targets an initial set of developing country actions and to be entered into 2 appendices by January 31 to 2010. It is widely expected, although not specified in the accord, that the targets and actions entered will be consistent with those floated by governments in the run-up to Copenhagen. Additional developing country actions can be added to the appendix on the ongoing basis. Actions for which developing countries are seeking support are to be recorded in a registry and those receiving support will later be listed in the Developing Country Appendix.